Warning: the content on this channel often covers topics that are considered eerie or scary and can be triggering to some individuals. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Darker Things. Today, we're diving into some truly eerie subjects. The mysterious world of Ouija boards, the terrifying phenomenon of sleep paralysis, and the unsettling lore of cursed artifacts. Now, these topics are all deeply rooted in both psychology and the supernatural, and I have personal experiences that tie into each one. I'll share those stories with you as we explore the dark corners of our world together. But before we get started, I want to remind you, sometimes the unknown isn't as far away as we think. Let's jump right in. First up, Ouija boards. These are more than just a board game. They're a tool for communication. Or at least that's what many people believe. But how did we get here? Let's take a look at origins. The Ouija board has its roots in 19th century spiritualism, a movement where people actively sought to communicate with the dead. Elijah Bond was one of the first to see the potential to turn this mysterious practice into something more commercial. Soon it was in homes everywhere thanks to Harper Brothers. But let's take a step back for a second. Is there a rational explanation for how the planchette moves? Scientists say the answer lies in something called the ideomotor effect. Tiny, unconscious muscle movements that make it seem as though the board is moving on its own. What do you think? Is it just a trick of the mind, or is there something more to it? There's also the role of expectation in group psychology. When a group sits down to use a Ouija board, the collective energy and the power of suggestion can be incredibly strong. Studies have even looked at brain activity during Ouija sessions, and it turns out that our brains can do a lot without us being fully aware of it. Of course, the Ouija board has also had a major impact in cinema. Think of The Exorcist, where a simple game turns into something terrifying, or Witch Board, which shows us the consequences of meddling with forces we don't fully understand. These films have made the Ouija board synonymous with the opening doors that perhaps should have remained closed. Now I want to share something personal. When I was 18, I made a mistake. I used a Ouija board alone. I remember asking it, who was speaking to me? The planchette spelled out Natas, N-A-T-A-S. At first, I thought it was just a name. But one day I saw the reflection of my notepad in the mirror, and I realized Natas, N-A-T-A-S, spelled Satan backwards. It took me a long time to get rid of that board. Felt like I didn't want to leave, and the process was frustrating, even terrifying. Have you ever had an experience like that? Let me know in the comments below. Next, let's talk about sleep paralysis. This is something many people have experienced, and if you've ever felt it, you know how terrifying it can be. What is sleep paralysis? Sleep paralysis occurs during the REM, the REM stage of sleep, when our bodies are supposed to be paralyzed to keep us from acting out our dreams. But sometimes our minds wake up while our bodies are still asleep, and that's when things can get really frightening. Now, there are some physiological reasons why sleep paralysis might happen. Conditions like sleep apnea, high blood sugar, or irregular sleep patterns can increase the likelihood of experiencing sleep paralysis. When our bodies are out of sync, it can sometimes lead to the terrifying feeling of being awake, unable to move. And here's an interesting idea. What if sleep paralysis is connected to something even stranger, like astral projection gone wrong? Some believe that during sleep, our spirit might leave our body, and sleep paralysis occurs when it's trying to reunite but gets stuck in an in-between state. What do you think? Is it just a physiological glitch? Or could there be something more supernatural at play? Now, I personally experienced sleep paralysis for the first time when I was just 7 years old. I woke up and I couldn't move. Above me, I saw a bum-like clown hovering. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. And the clown's face started to change. It became something more sinister, something demonic. Couldn't move or make a sound until I finally managed to whisper one word: Jesus. Now, the moment I said it, I could move again, and the figure disappeared. Later, my mom found out that our apartment was a crime scene. The previous tenant had dressed as a clown, lured children, and was killed by parents taking justice into their own hands. And before we even knew any of this, my mom saw water boiling red in our bathroom. Not rust, something more sinister.
Hi everyone, I'm Veronica, and I've got my own story of sleep paralysis to share. I woke up one night unable to move. I could see the ceiling fan spinning above me, and all of a sudden, I felt like the blood was draining out of my body. I felt dizzy, and then I saw a demonic figure with horns and a human torso, hovering right above me. It wasn't until my mom came into the room that I was able to move again, and the figure vanished. Have any of you ever had an experience like that? It's strange how real it can feel, almost like you're stuck between two worlds.
Sleep paralysis has inspired a lot of horror movies. Take A Nightmare on Elm Street, for instance. Freddy Krueger attacks his victims when they're most vulnerable in their sleep. Think of Flatliners, where characters are brought to the brink of death and experience something that feels like a mix of sleep paralysis and the supernatural. These films capture the feeling of helplessness, that line between sleep and waking where nothing is quite right. And now, let's move on to cursed artifacts. These objects have fascinated and terrified people for generations. They seem to carry on energy that affects anyone who comes into contact with them. We've all heard of Robert the Doll, right? This creepy toy is said to have caused accidents, misfortunes, and all sorts of strange occurrences. Then there's Annabelle, a doll so dangerous they had to be locked away in a case blessed by a priest. But it's not just the famous ones. There are lesser-known artifacts out there with equally chilling stories, like the Crying Boy painting, which was said to cause fires in the homes it was hung in. Many of these items are housed in places like Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum, where the people take serious precautions just to be near them. Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas is one of the most infamous places for cursed and haunted artifacts. Inside, you'll find items like the Dybbuk box, a mysterious sign cabinet said to be haunted by an evil spirit, one of my son's personal favorite cursed objects. There's also Dr. Kevorkian's death van, and a collection of personal items from notorious serial killers. Each artifact has a story, and each story adds to the museum's chilling reputation. And then there's the Warren Museum, founded by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigators. This museum holds items like the real Annabelle doll, which is kept in a blessed case. There's also the Shadow doll, said to have the power to visit people in their dreams, and the Conjuring mirror. The Warrens believed these items were too dangerous to be left unchecked, and their museum became a kind of supernatural quarantine zone. So why do people believe in cursed artifacts? It all comes down to our natural tendency to connect the dots, to find the patterns where there may be none. If something bad happens after you've touched a strange object, it's easy to blame the object. Fear and suggestion, powerful tools. Movies like Annabelle and Hellraiser have really captured our imaginations when it comes to cursed objects. The idea that an inanimate object can carry an evil force is something that resonates with a lot of us. It makes us question the everyday things around us. So there you have it. We've talked about the mysterious nature of Ouija boards, the terrifying experience of sleep paralysis, and the dark allure of cursed artifacts. These topics all share a common thread. They blur the lines between fear, psychology, and the supernatural. Why do these things captivate us so much? Maybe it's because they remind us of how little we understand about our world. Or maybe it's because they force us to confront our deepest fears. Remember, once you enter the dark, you may never be the same. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to subscribe for more dark and chilling explorations. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a strange experience with a Ouija board, sleep paralysis, or a cursed object? Share your story in the comments below. And if there's something else you want us to explore here on Darker Things, let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and for God's sakes, stay in light.